Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be looking at an absolutely brilliant medieval melee game, which looks like the best equivalent to For Honor that we're going to see in the upcoming months. And in some ways, it is so much better than For Honor. Obviously, to begin with, there's no P2P matchmaking, and it's not run by Ubisoft. The developer team consists of 10 international people, all with previous experience in games such as Chivalry, or they all have thousands of hours, and I think they just wanted to make a game that improves on those already existing titles, and from what I've seen so far, they are definitely on the road to achieving that. As always, we're going to begin with a short description of the game. The developers have said Mordhau is a multiplayer medieval fighting game where fights range from duels all the way to large open battles of up to 64 players. With horses, siege engines and castles to be stormed, it features a skill-based, free-flowing combat system that is easy to learn but hard to master. The Mordhau developers pride themselves on deep and expressive combat, brutal medieval settings, fighting on horseback, devastating siege engines, large battles of up to 64 players, and detailed character and gear customization that is basically a must in any medieval game, in my opinion. The main thing this game is based around is the melee system, and on their Kickstarter page, they do have a very detailed description of what is in the game. So it has free-flowing combat where you can chain your attacks into combos, punish your opponents with quick counters, push them away with kicks, trick them with feints, grip your polearm closer to the head, use real half-swording techniques, and much, much more. Expressive controls allow you to attack from a total of 240 different angles, which is extremely different to other games such as For Honor, where you can only attack from 4 different angles. Mountain Blade, you can only attack from 4. I'm sorry, in For Honor, I meant 3. And in things like Of Kings and Men, I think it's 9 attack directions. So this is beating them by miles. The control system can either be played with a controller or keyboard and mouse, so if you prefer using a controller for these combat games, the control system will fully work for you guys. There's also real-time collision detection, where your blade will cut exactly where it looks, and it will basically clash together with an opposing weapon, resulting in fast-paced exchanges and the occasional loss of hands. Because decapitation is such a massive thing in this game. There's a lot of gore. You can decapitate your foes, cut off their arms, hands and legs, and watch throats being slit while they gurgle their last breath away. This is something that games like Kingdom Come Deliverance just don't have, and when you kill someone, it's just so unsatisfying. But as you can see from on screen now, that some of the finishes you can do are absolutely insane. I think the best thing on this list is that there's no peer-to-peer matchmaking. We know the disasters that this causes, Ubisoft, with For Honor. I mean, if you just look at the Steam reviews on that game, every single one that I've seen is not recommended, and the paragraph always begins with P2P. This game uses dedicated servers like any melee game should, which is just absolutely perfect. It will ensure a stable experience and low ping, provided you're playing on the right server and your internet isn't too shit like mine. Anyway, there's also siege engines where you can take out enemies from the safety of your catapult. You can scale siege ladders and fight them, or pin enemies down with a well-placed ballista shot. I think the addition of siege engines is going to make this really cool. Back in the video I made in September, I was really hoping they would add sieges, and it looks like they have. And to a brilliant extent, the siege engines look really cool, and the sieges as well look really fun. You're going to be able to play as cavalry, which is perfect. Also, you're going to have 64 players in a server, which is just the right amount for this type of game. Any more than that, and it does get a little bit overcrowded, maybe they can increase it a little bit. I'm sure servers will be able to mod up that player count like you did in Warband. The game also features map interactivity, where you can bring gates crashing down on enemies, chuck boulders off castle walls, and pick up and drop equipment as you go. Interaction is a massive part of this game, and it spices up everything in every match, and I think this kind of allows you to change up weapons. Maybe if you're playing some form of competitive round with your friends, you can exchange weapons and, you know, test out some weapons that you maybe haven't unlocked yet. If there's an unlocking system, I'm not really sure. As I mentioned previously, you will be able to fight on horseback, where you can plow through the enemy ranks on your horse and launch surprise flanking attacks on the enemy archers or infantry. So basically this will equate in for some tactical gameplay, especially for the infantry, because they will most likely be having to carry around polearms, especially if they are outside of the castle where the cavalry can easily come up behind them and lance them, basically, because they just have that range on any normal infantry that's using a one-hander and shield, for example. There's also varied battles and environments where their combat system is basically designed for fights ranging from duels all the way to large open battles of up to 64 players, with castles to be stormed and fields to be covered in blood. A variety of environments will keep each battle interesting, as we will take you from dusty deserts to lush green forests and even icy peaks. I'll show you the screenshot that's used in their Kickstarter campaign on screen now. I think that's a good representation of the variety of maps that we're going to have. This list just doesn't seem to stop. This game also has ranged combat, where you have an arsenal of ranged equipment such as bows and crossbows. You can also throw your sword and some other weapons like axes, preferably into someone's face, because we know what happens when an axe meets a face. You get a lot of gore, which is something that this game prides itself on, as I mentioned previously. Projectiles will collide with other projectiles and even attacks. So basically, when you swing, you can block these projectiles using that swing, or maybe even blocking, which is really, really cool. That's going to equate into some very high-skilled combat. Customization is such a big element of so many games these days. In this game especially, you can pick your gender, choose what type of body you have, adjust facial features, and even sculpt your face to your liking. So the customization depth is going to be very, very high. I presume this will allow your character to have a very unique face, to say the least, and you'll basically be recognized for that. And I think that is something that's really brilliant, meaning each player can create a unique face. We saw this kind of thing in Warbound with a customization where you can make your face to have just a very deformed look depending on your facial features, the nose depth, the eye depth, or the eye width, etc. I think if Mordhau goes into that much depth as Warbound did, we can expect some very weird looking faces. The ability to create your own suit of armor, picking from gloves, arms, shoulders, chest pieces, legs, boots, helmets, and more. You're also able to color each piece to your liking and select a metal tint. You can pick an emblem that represents you as well. Obviously, mine would be a hawk on a black background, a white hawk on a black background. And you can even choose how polished you want the metal to be. You can basically be anything from a Viking to a Crusader by the looks of things, which I think if you're able to have that much depth in customization, this game is going to be so good. You're also able to build your own weapon. You can smith your own swords out of individual pieces of metal, or it's such as individual pieces of sword, I should say, not metal. You're not like literally taking ingots and putting them together. You're getting the handles and hilts and all that kind of stuff. You can pick from blades, crossguards, and grips. If you want a mace instead, there's no problem. You can pick your head and handle the type of shaft you're going to have. And there's basically hundreds of different combinations. A lot of people have been raving about the Bannerlord weapon customization, but this game seems to do that and so much more a lot better. But who knows, because we're not really entirely sure how deep the customization will go in Warband, as we have barely seen anything on it. Please, Tailworlds, give us more. One thing this game has is offline play. I know there are a few people out there that just don't like playing online and rather play single player, or just have such bad internet connections that, say they live in, I don't know, China or something, where no one else is playing this game but them or something, and they want to just play on by themselves. That's completely and utterly fine. You can do that in this game. It's not just an online game. There's not going to be any early access. They aim to deliver a polished game that will continue to expand with post-release content and updates. This basically means we won't have to have a really buggy release, hopefully, and you won't have to pay for two different things. Like early access in some games works. For Blackquake, it worked really well. For Of Kings and Men, though, however, it went really badly. There's also ways of unscrewing your pommel in a mace and then throwing it at someone, which is insane. Like, that's such a good feature to have. It's basically a meme, which I absolutely love. So I think that's all the features that have been released so far, and I'm sure the developers will be releasing more updates in the future. I think the set release of this game is 2018, but that's excluding all the alphas, etc. The developers actually emailed me saying that they will give me a copy of the alpha, which is absolutely brilliant. I saw that email while I was editing this video. Also, I'd like you to go down in the description, and if you want to back this game on Kickstarter, make sure you do. I think they set it up yesterday, and they had an aim of 80,000. 1,437 backers later, in one day, they got $91,693. So they surpassed their goal in, I think, 2 days, maybe 1 day, which is insane. And there's just a really committed community already. You can find the link down to their website where you can access the forums, find out some more information on the game. I'd like to also note that this isn't a sponsored video. I'm just really passionate about bringing this medieval genre to life a little bit more. We saw For Honor become really popular to begin with, and then the P2P began setting in. The Steam reviews were pretty shit, and the game now has, I think, like a fifth or a sixth of the player base it originally had. But again, I still have faith in For Honor. I think they can pull through and make a really good game out of it, as I think Mordhau is going to be somewhat better than For Honor. I just really have high expectations for this game. Anyway, I think that will do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I have another Warband single player mod coming up very soon. It's a very unique one to say the least, but hopefully it's one that you guys will enjoy, and it is related to Bannerlord. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.